So I'm going to take you step by step how to get yourself applied to the Muskrat Falls project online. So you open your internet browser, whichever one you may be using, and you just go ahead, you type in muskratfallsjobs.com in your toolbar, and that will take you directly to their site. Very informative site. So here we have the Muskrat Falls Jobs website, exactly right where you apply. So be a part of the most exciting energy development in Newfoundland Labrador? I would hope so. So you go right here, the register login here button, you click on that. Now you have two options right here. You have the option if you're a new user, you go ahead and you create your account, or if you're a returning user, to which you already type in your username and password, and you have the option to remember you for the next time you're logged in. But for now we're going to go with new user. So we're going to go ahead and create the account. So we have to sign up for the new account. We start out by creating a username. This can be whatever you choose. For now, I'm just gonna go with testing 123. And of course you want to create a password that nobody else but yourself will be able to figure out. So you don't want to go with something too simple or something too complicated, but you still want to be able to remember it. So you type in your password and then you type it in again in the second bar. And then if you have an email address, you type it in there. If not, then you have to sign yourself up with an email address. Now, the security question is what may come up in case you forget your password. So for now, I'm just going to go with what was your mother's maiden name. And then we go ahead and create the username. Okay, so that step is complete. It's step one of the process. So we click continue. Alright, after that's done loading, we go ahead and we must give our consent in order to be able to move on to the next step. So we click on that button right there. Now, first comes first, which is your personal information. You type in your last name, and then your first name. Of course, your middle name. All of this is very straightforward. Now you'll notice that it has two toolbars, one for address line 1 and one for address line 2. This is in case you have two separate addresses, to which I don't, so I'm going to leave address line 2 blank. You select your province. You type in your phone number to which you can be contacted. And of course, if you have an alternative phone, like for some it may be their cell phone or their work number. And then you have to select whether you're a Nunatsi beneficiary member, whether you're just a regular Labrador resident, or if you're a Labrador Innu, or if you're a Newfoundlander, or what have you. So for now, I'm a Nunatsi beneficiary member. And this is in case you are affiliated with the Labrador Aboriginal Training Program, which we are not, so we're not going to be checking that for now. Some of you may be. So we go ahead and we save that. Now that that's all taken care of, we go ahead and we click on opportunities. Now the position categories, there's many to choose from. There are many positions that are going to be affiliated with the project, so you must select the ones you are interested in. You can select as little or as many as you like. So for this case, I'm just going to select Aboriginal Relations. And then you click Add. So just for my sake, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to search for human resources because that's what I've been studying in school. So that's what I'm going to go ahead and choose. But you can notice here there are many, many to choose from. So you might want to look through this list carefully before you decide to go ahead and choose. So there's human resources. I click on that and then I click add. So I have 3 separate positions that I'm interested in that I may be considered for if I have the qualifications and the experience. So for the next step, we're going to go ahead and click on training. Now it says I haven't added any training yet, so we have to click the add training link, which is just above program name. Now I have my resume here just in case, so I can go back and consider what I have on my resume to be able to type in what I need to for this registration process. And just to ensure everything is there and everything seems updated. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and click on add training. All right, so here we type in a program name. And for the sake of this tutorial, I'm just going to type in first aid training. Not that I actually have it, but it's something to be considered. So underneath the training category for first aid training, we would select medical. Now, because your first aid training may not have technically came from a school, we have the option of leaving that blank, which is non-applicable. Let's say I received my first aid training in Nain, which is in Newfoundland and Labrador. And let's say I received this training through a community college that was affiliated with the College of the North Atlantic, then I could go ahead and I could select community college. Or if I received it at a university, that would be fine as well. Now for the started date, you do not have to remember exactly, but they would like an approximation for this sake. So I'm just going to go ahead and make this up, seeing this is completely false. Now the end result here would just be typing in whether you have not completed it, still yet completing, and say for this sake we're going to say that we completed our first aid training successfully. And the award we would get here is our first aid training certification. And then we go ahead and we click on the check mark button. Now we can see here that in our training, our first aid training has been updated. It is there. If we want to add something else, we go ahead and we click on add training. So again, we go through the exact same process. And let's say for this case that we're going to add something that we have done in our education, which applicable to me is my Bachelor's of Psychology that I have received at St. Mary's University. You notice here I made a mistake. I clicked on Newfoundland and Labrador. That's obviously supposed to be Nova Scotia. So this may become a bit of a slow process, but if you need to go right back to the years, then all you have to do is just keep scrolling back. Now I started in September of 2009 and I completed my program in May of 2012, so I just go back and select that month. Now it doesn't have to be an exact date, but as long as it's the correct month and the correct year, that's a good approximation. The end result is completed successfully, and I was awarded a degree. Now there was no designation within this program, so we go ahead and we click the check mark button in the corner. So as of right now, we have our first aid training listed and our bachelor's of psychology. And we also have the option to edit both of these. So if we click on the edit button, which looks like a little pencil, then we have the option of going in and switching anything that we have already wrote here. So if we wanted to take out a designation, if we figured out that was wrong, then we go click the edit button and then we fix that and we click the check mark button once again. So that's all automatically fixed. We also have the option to delete something with the X button. If we want something taken away, we click the delete button and this notice will show up on your screen. If you want it removed, you click OK. But in this case, we don't necessarily have to, but we will just to show you what happens. So that's what happens. It completely removes itself. So just to show you again, to get you familiarized with this process, I'm going to go ahead and type in my Certificate of Applied Human Resource Management. And that would be listed under Business Management from the University of New Brunswick. Now, if you're unsure of your training category, you can always search it up or ask someone. And I'm currently completing this in New Brunswick at a university level. And again, we go back to when we started this program. For example, let's say in September. And to which this program will be completed in December of 2013. And the award from this program will be a certificate. This is not a degree program. And then we go ahead and we click the blue check mark button once again. So now we have our Certificate of Applied Human Resource Management and our Bachelor's of Psychology. And we also have the option button in case no one is there to help you. Have a click here for help button to use, and it explains everything step by step. Directions for your program name, your city, your town, everything that you need help with. So we X out of that and we go into our experience and click add more work experience. So for this case, I'm going to refer back to my resume. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to type in our employment as a summer student. Job title, pretty obvious, summer student. It was full-time for the months of the summer. Our employer was Child, Youth, and Family Services in the town of Nain of Newfoundland and Labrador. Now, to refer back to the time that this took place, it was taking place in June 2010 to August 2010. So we go ahead and again, we estimate the dates as they don't have to be exact, but however, the month and the year has to be correct. Okay, if it's still your current employer, you can go ahead and click the box for current employer, but that is not the case, so we will not be checking that today. So our job reference, the person who hired me in this case, would be Michael Fleming. So we go ahead and we have to type in the phone number next to that. And although I do not know the number off the top of my head, I'm just going to go ahead and just make something up. Now for the job details, you might want to go back and refer to your resume if it's in there, the duties that you performed while you were completing this position. I would like to keep my registration process and my resume adjacent to one another, but that's not always the case. So I'll just go ahead and keep referring back to my resume to make sure that everything is completed correctly. So I've got going on home visits within the community, attending court circuits with young offenders, summarizing case notes for social workers attending court, we've also got secretarial duties such as answering the phone, sending faxes, checking the mail. Aiding youth in the application process to rehabilitation centers. And then we go ahead and we click the checkmark button again in the corner once we've got that completed. So that is now updated to our profile. That's in our work experience. And if we want to, again, if we want to go ahead and edit something in there that we felt might not be a true representation, then we go ahead and we take it out or we add it in, whatever that may be. And in this case, that is compiling, or actually, sorry, aiding youth in the application process. Now there is something to be noted here. There's only so many characters available for this section, so you want to make sure that you explain as much as you can in the less amount of characters as you can, because there's not enough room to type in a long list. So we're going to go ahead and we want to add more work experience. We type in our next job title, to which I guess for now I will choose the cashier position I had in high school at my father's store. So we type in our employer, to mine, which was Haynes's General Store, which I'm sure some of you may have heard in Nain. And I started here September of 2007, which is quite the while back. So again, for this case, it's not an exact date, it's just an approximation. Now my job reference in this case would be my Uncle Herman Webb and the phone number for the store, whatever that may be. So our job details for this particular position are pretty basic and straightforward, but we must keep in mind that there's only so much room in this certain section of the process, so you can't type and type and type because there's only room for so many letters, so many words. So I guess the contractors or whomever may be viewing your profile, want to get through this as steadily as they can. So just keep that in mind, that you must keep it short and simple. So we go ahead and we click the check mark button again in the corner like we did previously. So now we have 2 positions there listed, and we can go ahead and we can click trades if that's applicable to us. So we click add a trades entry. So again, as with the others list, there's many, many to choose from. So you want to look through this list completely. And just to give you guys a feel of what you do in this section, I know nothing about trades, but I'm just going to select welder. And let's say I was an apprentice. And again, we have the option to click there for help in case we need explaining for a certain toolbar and what we need to fill in. So now that we've got that figured out, we check whatever is applicable to us, or if it is not applicable, you leave it blank. We type in our hours completed. And let's say for now that I have approximately 1200. And then we have to also select the date to which those hours have been completed. So for that, let's go with those dates. And then any extra notes you want to type in about your trade, where you've received it, any kind of that information, feel free to type it in that bar right there. So for this case, I'm just gonna say I'm an awesome welder, which I am obviously not, but it would be nice if I was. But let's not go with that for now. Select your province in which you receive the trade, and then you go ahead and you click the check mark button as you've done for everything else throughout this process. So now we've got our welding trade selected and it's put in, it's on our profile. And if we want to edit it, we have that choice to do so. So we go in just to, ensure everything is completed correctly. And let's say we made a mistake and typed in apprenticeship when we were really a journeyman, and we needed to type in our journey person's hours. And again, we also have the choice to delete that if need be. But that looks fine for now. So we'll go with licenses and certification, if that's applicable once again. So we go ahead and click the add a new license slash certification. Again, another long list that you may want to consider going through carefully. So for the sake of this, we're going to go with the first aid course training. And again, I'm going to create a false date. But of course, that's obviously not what you guys want to do when going through this process. I'm just giving you clear examples here. If you want to write in the details of whom you may have received the first aid course training from or anything of that matter, you can feel free to type in the details there in that box. But for now, I'm just going to click the check button. So that's now listed, and we have the choice to add a new one, so I'm going to go ahead and click that. And for a second, I'm going to type in that I have my learner's permit. And then we go ahead and we click the check mark button as we've done previously. So this is the consent form that we have to look at, and we want to read through that very carefully, making sure that we understand all of it. We want to make sure that we're able to read all of this very clearly and carefully, as each little piece is very important. So basically, this is LCP is subject to the provisions of the Access to Information and Privacy Act of Newfoundland and Labrador and the obligations and protections contained therein. Your personal information may be subject to a request. You hereby provide your consent to release of your personal information that you have written in this document and that you have read and understood the terms. So we go ahead and we say we agree and we click update. Now, if you don't want your information stored here, if you don't want this available to a contractor that may consider you for a position, then you may also withdraw your consent. So in case you get work elsewhere you wish to not be considered, then you can go ahead and withdraw that consent, which is what I just did. So just to make sure everything is there and everything is typed in correctly, we just want to go back and do a double check. And you can click on my profile just to get an overview. And now this is back to the home page where we first began. Now, I just logged out of the system by clicking on the logout button in the corner, but I'm just going to go back and type in my username and my password. And you have the option to click remember me for next time, so that the next time you don't have to keep typing in your username and your password. Now click on my profile just to make sure everything is still there. Yep, everything looks fine. And one last thing that I would like to remind you guys, that it is a good idea to have this information stored elsewhere, because there is a chance for this website to time you out, which means that it automatically disconnects you after a certain time and you haven't been typing things in and updating your profile, that all your information that you have written in gets completely lost. So either you want to have it saved in a file elsewhere on your computer or on a piece of paper so that you have something to look back on and that nothing gets lost. So you want to keep that in mind. And that is how you complete the process. It's pretty simple, so we'll go ahead and log out, and I wish you guys all the best, and I hope each and every one of you get hired.